be possible.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have a long night of spoken words, so I'm going to make mine very brief, just to be able to say that we are delighted to have the event here. Originally, the way we had thought about it was because we were going to have our Indian Languages Festival starting over this weekend, but that has got relocated. So all those dreams and plans will...
Andrea, our president, and a big round of applause also for my great colleagues who've been working like crazy to have you tonight. As director of Alliance Française of Delhi and as a very modest tentative writer myself, I'm super honored to call on stage now the heart of our events, the heart of the long night of literatures. Julia, we know there's a S, because we have multiple authors. So I'll give you just a little hint, and dear authors, of course, this is super easy. When I say your name, please join me on stage. He writes to be heard and heard to be felt. Austrian poetry meets performance with him. Expect rhythm, wit, and fire. Please, Marcus Köhler, join me on stage. Her stories travel from Mumbai's bustle to Italy's myth, a voice that unites continents through the poetry of understanding. For Italy, this is like soccer, no, it doesn't sound right, but still for Italy, Clara Nubile. His voice turns ordinary lives into eternal echoes, turning solitude into sculpture and memory into light. Please welcome our Hungarian author, sorry for the bad pronunciation that is coming, dear Ferenc Barnas. Her poetry opens what pain once closed, turning loss into language and silence into strength. Gail McConnell for UK. He writes where logic ends and imagination begins. Philosophy in prose, myth for the modern mind. Mr. Todor P. Todorov for Bulgaria. And even if I don't speak French, you have to endure that French accent until I finish. Her words burn where silence once stood. She gathers society's whispers and makes them echo. Please welcome Anaïs Claire for Switzerland. His words linger like memories that never learned to fade. Between loss and longing, he writes the quiet pulse of life. Spain, Marcos Giral Torrente. Stories of race, rhythm, and reality told with wit and warmth. Between Berlin, that's a big hint, and belonging, she writes what we hesitate to say. Big round of applause for Jackie Thomae for Germany. He collects second-hand books and first-hand truth. A lifelong traveler through pages, people, and Places for Slovenia, Andrej Blatnik. She reclaimed what was lived, lost, and never told. From Maputo to Lisbon, she writes the uncomfortable truth. For Portugal, Isabela Figueiredo. Between chaos and cadence, he finds the language of noise, a poet of frequencies turning thought into vibration. For Ukraine, Mr. Yuri Zavadsky. So I could say Cocorico, but I won't. Her words, her words wander through Paris, searching for souls in modern chaos. Between math and freedom, she writes the ache of becoming. For France, Monia Aijalis. He writes in many tones, but always with one voice. Poet, essayist, translator, professor, he finds truth in the spaces between. For Poland, Mr. Piotr Fiorczyk. And last, but absolutely not least, her words unravel the connectedness buried inside broken systems. Maybe it was what you were talking about, Andrea. Sometimes our systems are broken and maybe this long night will repair them. She listens to the language of order and answers with empathy. For Denmark, Miss Fine Grabol. And I'm so sorry for my German.
Okay, and now just one instruction, because we have been working very hard to make it easier for you. And this is also an opportunity to thank the volunteers that have been offered their work to make this possible tonight. So you have selected one of those at the registration desk. So please show the color at the exit in the foyer, and there would be volunteers taking you to the right hall. There is only one rule to follow. Is this one? We can, going out, go only the right staircase. So please follow that, okay?
And just the volunteers wear t-shirts with their sleeves have color, and it should match the color that you have on your bookmark.
Yeah, more or less. Yes. So, but you recognize.
It's a book about my life in Africa, in Mozambique, like a taboo. Because the Portuguese colonialism was as dark as others, as the British colonialism or the Belgian colonialism. It's always the same stuff. It's power over other people, is mistreating other people. And what I saw when I was a child traumatized me. There is always something in our lives that is like iron marking our skins. And colonialism really traumatized me, and also the behavior of my father towards black people. So I decided to write a book about it when my father died. When I was 40, now I'm 60. But this book is doing very well. He has been doing very well since I have written it. And I'm going to read you just an excerpt, okay? And we can talk about it after. At the dinner table, whites would say the darky bastard didn't like working. He earned just enough to eat and drink the next week, especially to drink. Then he stayed in his hut, stretched out on a flea-ridden sleeping mat, fermenting cashew or cane liquor, while darky women worked for him with children on their backs. Whites respected these black men's wives much more than their husbands. My father often gave extra money to the wives when he went to look for his workers in their huts and found them utterly sloshed. Some money for them to eat and feed their children. The black man was the lowest of the low. He had no rights. He might be entitled to charity if he deserved it, if he was humble. That was the natural and unquestionable order of things. The darky served the white man ruled the darky. In Maputo, people sat down in restaurants, preferably outside, because the funds inside were useless and air conditioning a luxury. They would converse for hours about colonial teddy bear. They drank the good stuff and the best, and maybe ended up with having sex at home or away, legitimately or not. In Mozambique, it was easy for a white to take pleasure in life. We were nearly all bosses, and those who weren't aspired to be. There were always lots of darkies, all naturally lazy, stupid, and incompetent, asking for work and doing whatever we told them to do without looking up. A dedicated, loyal darky who took off his cap and bowed down when we passed, who could be trusted at home with the children and was said to be a good houseboy. A khaki uniform and slippers would be arranged for him. You'd get some of our food, eat at the table in the garden or kitchen, and when the boss's clothes became shabby, we would offer them to him. No one wanted to lose a good houseboy. From childhood, darky boys and girls would call around at our house looking for work. They would knock at the gate. We would open up and children in rags would appear, barefoot and starving for cassava, addressing us with a few words they knew: work, boss. Children my age or younger, I would open the door to these beggars and stared at them without a word. I couldn't understand. I would call my mother, who quickly sent them away. Go away, there's nothing here. And I would go back to my room and carry on reading Dickens or whatever. I just couldn't understand it. The pleasure of reading a book lessened humiliations. It was much greater than the pleasure of playing with animals or imagining wars with rose bushes. A book brought up a different world into which I could enter. A book was a fair land, because that was the problem. Between the world of books and reality, there was a colossal distance. Books could contain sordidness, evil, extreme poverty, but at some point they always offered redemption. Someone rebelled, struggled, and died or was saved. Books showed me that in the land where I lived, there was no redemption at all. That paradise of endless Solomon sunsets, which smelled of curry and red earth, was an enormous concentration camp of blacks with no identity, with no possession of their own bodies, and hence with no existence. Whoever on any given morning looked without a filter, without being defensive or aggressive, into the eyes of blacks as they drilled holes into the rough walls of building of whites, does not forget that silence, that boiling cold of hatred and dirty poverty, dependence and submission, survival and filth. There were no innocent hives. Do I have to read more or it's okay? Okay. 2 minutes? I have 2 more minutes. Okay. Let me. My father, when my father went to the shanty, let me look for the word. The shantytown. The shantytown was over by Shipamanin, or the airport, or far, far away. The shantytown was crisscrossed by narrow path, indented by gateways into clusters of huts, where there were women talking, children crying or playing, many dogs sleeping, goats chewing on grass, loud voices, cans of food steaming over hot coals, in essence, life. The shantytown was made of wicker reed canes that were either old and grayed or fresh and colored like very milky coffee. My father led me by the hand and I felt portable, like a light backpack. I almost traveled by hair. The earth was red and there was a pink dust over everything. Once in a while my father would stop and ask, "Where does Ernesto lives?" That's further ahead, close to a big tree, to an old general store, to a crossing where there's a new hut. And then we went further and further and kept looking. My father would ask and I would follow him, flying over the red ground, spying through the holes in the wicker walls and concealed lives of blacks. Lives of those from my land who couldn't be like me. They were darkies. That was their crime, being darkies. Then my father would find the place. Is there where Ernesto lives? Where's that lazy bum? A woman would point to a hut. My father dropped my hand and went in while I stayed outside, wrapping my arms around myself among the chickens, the barefoot darky children, the darky woman, and all the other darkies from the neighborhood who had seen the white man and came to find out what was going on. My father shouted inside, and okay, now I have to stop to keep on just a few minutes. My father shouted inside and then punched and shoved Ernesto out of the hut, both of them dazed. "Monday, you're going to work, did you hear? Monday, you'll be at the pump at 7. You will work for your wife and children. You lazy bastard, what are you doing with your life?" Shove, punch.
So, nice to meet you here. My name is Yuri Zavadski, I'm from Ukraine. I'm a poet, translator, academician, and I work on the crossroads of cultures there in the Eastern Europe. I publish a lot of poetry, numerous poetry books translated into Ukrainian. That is a very important part of my everyday research, everyday work. And I feel a little bit shocked now because like few nights before, Russians attacked my city, and this moment we know about the 31 inhabitants of my city have died because of that. So I want to decide this poem that I decided to read. I wanted I just want to read this poem in the memory of them because this text is about my own inner research and my identity and about the land that I live in. I will read in English. Sorry, maybe this translation is not very good, but I hope so. And I will read in Ukrainian just for you to hear the original. Cold air tractors are blowing out my late findings, capsules of irrationality and spider guts of hesitation. I can breathe in enough. I've been waiting lessonly as if to cease to exist for a while. I'm adding the penal-worn days to my collection, the days that keep rumbling on the horizon, while it's easy to breathe and bitter to breathe. I've collected too much soil in my pockets, the soil that has blunted my eyes. I've summoned too much of someone else's air in my lungs. I'm the very reason that someone is too far away from me. The clouds of the dust are breaking from beneath the course of wheels. I hide my eyes and suddenly my boots are torn. The soil goes underneath my nails, the blackest to not ever be scraped out. Холодні повітряні трактори виорюють мої пізні знахідки. Капсули нераціональності та павучих богів нерішучості. Я надихатися не можу. Я так довго чекав, що мене вже не стане надовго. Неначе. До колекції додаю передостанні теплі дні, що димлять і гуркочуть на обрії. І легко мені дихати, і гірко мені дихати. Назбирав у кишенях землі забагато, що застувало мені очі. Забагато чужого повітря у легенях собі назбирав. Це через мене самого, хтось занадто далеко від мене. З-під драпатих коліс вибиваються хмари пилюки, очі ховаю і раптом роздертими стають мої черевики. І земля попід нігті, що чоренну не виглубаю вже ніколи. Thank you. My aim as a publisher and a cultural activist is to build the bridges between cultures, between languages. I'm from the region that is very diverse, very multinational, and two world wars changed the situation in my region. We had a lot of Jews, a lot of Germans, of Polish, Ukrainian inhabitants. They all were local. You know, they all consisted our culture. That's why I write in Polish too, for example. Like I discovered the Polish language. I'm very interested in Polish literature, And I think that maybe you are happy because you can dig, you can discover other cultures that are very close, you know, door to door. It's one my friend from Australia came once to the festival in my region, to the literature festival, and he told me that just sitting the same way as we do it with Isabella. He told me, you know, you are all whites. It was a big surprise for him, yeah, that we were all whites, and you know, we live in this, you know, in these limits. So it's that is not so easy for Ukrainians now to share their views, share their literature because of the war that we have. Yeah? And I highly appreciate the invitation from the Ukrainian embassy and the help of our partners from Poland, from other countries, that these efforts made my stay here possible. So, and I very appreciate that you came to listen to us. This is a very important thing. Also, as a translator, I have to say that no literature, no culture in general can exist in the isolation. No? This the discussion, no, this communication, this exchange between cultures makes us richer, makes us free, and makes us understand ourselves. That's the thing. When I learn Polish language, I understand deeper my own language, Ukrainian. Yeah? I see the history of the language, different words, and this material I use in my poetry too. So I think that you will agree that this exchange is extremely important, and that's why we have to find like bridges, the ways to agree, the ways to communicate, not to war. So thank you very much, and I think that you have some questions, I guess.
Yes, if you have some.
Yes, if you have some questions, you have the opportunity of posing them.
We only have 8 minutes, so be a bit quick. When the ring bells, so everyone should leave the room.
The ring is here. It is very beautiful.
Hi. Is this on? Yeah.
Just closer.
Okay. I'm Soumya. I'm a writer, editor, and a poet myself. And thank you so much. I think that was amazing. The little lab we heard is very powerful, it's very poignant, and definitely everything's coming from your own experience. I've had the chance to read a lot of Ilya Kamelsky's poetry as well, and a little bit of that, but this is completely different. I want to know when you're in the midst of something like war and something that's so full of grief and gore. How is it that you still evoke your poetry, and what inspires you to write something about beauty at that point, or about the human emotion, and not be overwhelmed by all the morbidity and all the flesh and blood around you?
We can answer together, or this is for me?
This is actually for you, but I know it's for you. Right?
Okay, good. You know that literature is such a strange thing that the poetry for me is a quite psychotherapy, or else When the war, this big war, started in Ukraine, I began to write transparent and soft and easy text. You know, why? Maybe I was looking for some other experience, because this time was awful. You know, when we were divided with our families, so on, so on. You know? We were limited with the access to some things, with the limited rights to, of course, because we have to work on to protect our country from the invaders. But in the same way, I understood that the poetry can be the communication, you know, and I saw that my poems begin to be like drama-alike. The dialects appear there, more people there are. So it was not, it was like unconscious, you know. It appeared from nowhere, and it was great. The poetry is the way to others. That's the thing.
Thank you.
Madam Isabella, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm from the Hungarian classes at the University of Delhi. I'm from the Hungarian classes in the University of Delhi. And thank you for visiting our university. Thank you for giving us your time. I just want to check on from your diary. All through the experiences of your life, has there any moment been of an alliance between a child and a child? I mean to say, you as a child and the darkies children. Did you ever feel that there was, beyond the political equations and the colonizer and the subject equation, did you ever had a sense of unity among the children? Like you could play with them, or you could share your experience with them? Did they ever come to you with any kind of, not as a subject, but as a child-to-child relationship? We have not gone through your book, so is there any mention of that?
Well, I felt all the time ashamed. Even as a young girl, a very young girl of 6-7 years old, when I began to notice that the difference between me and black people was impossible to overpass. Because for me it was very easy to play with a black child. A black child is a child, as me. We were childs, we were playing together. So how could I understand that my father and my mother prohibited me, forbidden me to play with other people that are also a part of me, because we are all the same. We are together in the world. There are no difference. There is no color. There is no color in spiritually. There is no color. There is no differences. We are the same. We are the same thing. The same thing that has been created one day. We are all the same. So it was very difficult for me to understand that black boys and girls were less than me, that I could not play with them, that I could not speak to them. I couldn't think of having a black boyfriend, for instance. It was completely forbidden for us. And yes, I was ashamed, and I have a little bit of guilt, not because of me, but because of the Portuguese colonialism, because of my father. I was a bit guilty, yes, and my guilt increased with years. when I was 12, I was much more guilty than when I was 8. You understand? I don't know if I'm answering to you. Am I answering?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you for your answer, for your question.
So I'm Bindya. I work with the Portuguese embassy actually, and I'm also a writer and a poet. And I must say that the pain which was visible in the description by Isabella, and the pain which is happening in Ukraine in the lives of the people, I could draw parallels, sadly, which happened many years ago and which is still happening now. So, I understood when you said that I could write more softly, because when you want to create a beautiful world, you imagine the beauty even in the midst of nothing, right? So I just wanted to inquire, even from Isabella and from you both. Yeah. Okay.
Those who want to get booked, you can go from that place, otherwise we'll continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Słońce grzeje. Przewracasz stronę i czytasz jeszcze raz o giełdzie pikującej i o gościu, który morduje. Twoja wina, że dziś święto i pełni ludzi wokoło? Gdyby mogli, przedłużyliby molo stąd do Japonii, a tak rozpoznajesz Ontario i spóźniańską koronę. Mi corazon. Będą na ciosy skarnie Asada i orężada z prądem, mordobicie. Już zakupują dziecko w mule. A kto zdobędzie trofeum Lombardiego? Zmarznięty otwierasz okna na oścież i dalej nie wiesz nic. Okay, why don't you tell me what we just heard? Yes. More suffering is on the way. I feel, not holding my breath. But saying so isn't easy. When I lose my voice like this, which happens when I read through the night, switching between Polish and English, and churning scraps of fiction and fact with my tongue, I wish I had less time to think about the future. That man whose hand I grabbed in a jam-packed underpass, calling him Dad, he said, everything worth remembering begins at the end. I don't know how we made it out alive. I only heard the muffled yell of someone going down. You see, that was long ago, but still, I carry the crowd, and the crowd carries me. What I do when I visit Poland is, and I've been doing that a lot lately, is particularly when I rent a car to drive all over the country, when I come with my kids, for instance, so they can see different parts of Poland, I forget to turn on the headlights, because some of you may know, in Europe you are required to keep your headlights on year-round. Well, that's not the case in the States. And this poem is about, it's a kind of an ironic take on the fact that, it never rains in Los Angeles, but when it does, it pours for, say, 3, 4, or 5 days, and half the people on the road don't have their lights on. So you can't see the cars. And so this poem is a kind of a commentary on that, if you will. It's called Rain. It's been raining non-stop for 5 days in Los Angeles, and hardly any driver thinks it's important to turn on the headlights. In Europe, for example, they keep the lights on year-round. Should we follow? While ruin invites rumination, light doesn't always wait at the end of the tunnel. For now, waiting down Bundy Boulevard, men in orange smocks keep dead leaves from clogging the drains. All other escape routes appear passable. Ink, as in INK, printer ink, fountain pen ink, and it's a poem, a at least at the time when I was writing it, my intention was to write a poem that would serve as a commentary inside the fountain pen. While he sped off in a painter's white van, I counted to 20 as ordered and played hacky sack with a Pepsi can. Then I ran home, punching holes in the walls along the way. After I slipped unnoticed into the house, drops of sweat streaked down my face. I let the printer rest in the company of paper clips on my IKEA desk. It was heavier than I imagined. For every button, I understood there were many others that baffled me, and levers that moaned like cellos. I got my middle finger stuck in the paper tray, trying to reach deep down. At last, stirred by feeling rather than fate or fact, I opened it up and planted a flag of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black in its heart. Gently, I slid 500 sheets inside. The goal was to add up again the correspondence I carried on with myself and the maple up front, and my wife's amber eyes. For if there was a chance to redeem myself, this was it. While I was shaking out my whites at the laundromat when we first met, the painter said he thought of art as windows and doors. So I pressed print and stopped the maple from shedding leaves. To my wife in the next room, bundled up like a burrito on that cold night, I promised not a waiting room of dim lights, but a life. The first group, I'm really big into collecting stamps. And so this book includes a sequence of poems. There's 6 or 7 of them in which I reflect on individual stamps from my collection. The sequence is called From the Life of Postage Stamps. And I'm going to read one of these poems. Typically stamps you think national heroes, landmarks, plants or animals or whatever country, region. And there are poems in the sequence on those subjects, but there's also a poem about kitchenware, so like utensils and things. My favorite, the two-faced meat tenderizer. An entire commando force can be assembled. No one beats the wiry egg beater or the black spatula, even the food processor shoved behind the Dutch oven. A jar opener is for sissies who've never squeezed a tennis ball. Better they stick to the frying pan or the wooden citrus creamer. Tongs are fine for dealing with sauerkraut or Polish sausages, but they share a drawer with the measuring cups that often go missing. Stir-frying noodles in the wok is easier than it looks. The peeler loves the grater the way the heirloom teacup loves the saucer. The carafe of icy water is a beauty. From the center of the table, it reflects sunlight onto the plates and mugs of mortals. About trains, just 2 couplets. In praise of trains. I love riding trains. Polish trains are so slow, they take you places you wouldn't visit otherwise. Sitting with my back to the engine, I see everything already said and done. Thank you.
Was Father Song, my life. The story of my father and my sister. And I'm going to read some of this from the beginning, the middle, and I'm going to be seated because for me it is
writing short stories. I've published a few books, collections of short stories, which you can also see at the table. And in the middle, you see this white folder with inside there are copies, printouts of some of my short stories, which are for you to read. If you like, you can take them after the session. So Before writing the novel, I was writing short stories, and with the short stories, you can start from anywhere. You can make a short story out of anything you like. Any moment, your everyday experience can turn into a short story. A short story is a perfect laboratory where you can experiment with language, with style, with different stories, with different plots. So you can do anything you like. Which I've also done because I have some of my stories are quite short, like some of them are less than a page, some of them are 3 or 4 pages. So it's really strange because, for instance, in the United States, a short story is considered like 20-25 pages at least. So writing a novel was a huge challenge for me. I was anxious. I was afraid that it would take much more time and it would need much more consistency, since you have to, you have to stay in a certain world, in a certain universe, to be focused on a specific topic. And I was afraid that it will get boring for me. And if you compare writing a novel like a long sailing through the ocean, especially in the times when my novel was set like the 16th century, I was afraid that maybe the first few days and I will want to go back home and start a new journey, because in short stories you can always finish one story and then you start the next and you explore, you just try something new. So when I started writing my novel, for my huge surprise, I started enjoying it a lot, the process of writing a novel, because it gives you space, it gives you time, and it gives you the scope, like the panoramic, scale of being able to create the whole universe, being able to create a whole world, and then develop your characters, get deeper into their minds, into their psyches, and just have the opportunity to, to unfold a huge story. Then you start living with your characters. You start living in the world you imagined. At a certain point, you see that you are not the master of this world. It doesn't belong to you anymore. You have to start listening to the voices of your characters. You have to adapt to them. You have to be able to follow them. You are not in a position to impose certain actions, thoughts, or whatever. And it's a very mysterious moment in the writing process. It's a huge mystery how it happens, because I know there are certain writers who are, they start with they have the whole concept, they plan everything, so at the end they just sit down and write. I don't believe that this kind of writing is really possible. Is a good approach to writing. I believe that in the process of writing, you encounter surprises. You encounter things that you didn't expect, that you didn't plan, that you discover through the process of writing. And sometimes things don't work out the way you expected or you wanted them to do. So you have to change, you have to move, you have to try something new. But I loved the whole thing, I love this this whole process of staying in this world and getting closer to everything you try to describe. So after finishing the novel, I just directly dived into writing another one, which took me a longer time. I still need a few more months probably to finish that. But it's then much more complex project and a bigger book than this one, which you see here, the Hagabula. This is the Bulgarian book, written in Bulgarian language. I was quite surprised that it was awarded the literary prize, National Literary Prize in Bulgaria for Best Novel of the Year, and then it also received a special mention at the European Prize for Literature. So this gave me the inspiration to really, the courage to believe that yes, the novel is my thing. I want to write novels. Maybe to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, and because I've been talking about Monaco so much, the last not months, but probably the last 2 or 3 years. It took me so much time because Hagabu I wrote for 1 year and 3 months, but I was writing every day. I brought my daughter to nursery. I made myself a coffee and I was writing for hours at home. Then a COVID happened, and this was like, I'm sorry, it was fantastic for me as a writer to have the opportunity that the world was left behind. Nobody bothered me really. I didn't have to go to the university. I was not obliged to socialize, and I could just stay alone at home and write and do whatever I like. It was fantastic. I'm sorry. I know it was catastrophic and it has a huge social implications and so on. But for me, it was a great time because I could do my thing. Now I have a lot of things to do at university. I teach, I give lectures. I have academic work. Academic work is not only about teaching as well. We have a lot of administrative work and bureaucracy and projects and whatever PhD defenses and also with my daughter growing up, being at school, this also takes a lot of engagement and responsibility. So now it's difficult to find the time to write so much. And also Hagabua, my novel, it made me travel a lot. It gave me I had to present the book at many festivals, book fairs, and I didn't expect that it will even bring me as far as India, which is so exciting for me, being here right now, because India has been haunting my imagination, and I wanted to come here for many years. So it's thanks to my book that that I'm here with you. And just to give you an idea, I won't be reading from my novel this time, but I will read to you probably 2 short. The first thing that I will read is from a short story I wrote like 2013, which is okay. Let's forget how far that is. But when I wrote this short story, it was already the concept was born for the novel. I knew that would be a great novel. If I could just expand this short story into a novel, it would be a fantastic novel. But it would be so difficult to make a novel out of this because it is counterfactual history, alternative history. So this is like answering the question, what would have happened if something else happened in the course of history. And specifically in my case, what I'm writing about is totally impossible to happen in terms of technology, in terms of historical perspective, etc. So I had to somehow justify the whole story to make it convincing enough. And how do I do that? It's so improbable to something like that. I will not spoil. I will not tell you the ending. Although the ending is the best part, I believe. But and it is what started the whole process. The first thing that came into my mind was the ending. So I knew how the book would end. And as I was saying, there are certain authors who in the beginning they have the whole thing, they plan everything. I don't. I just had the idea of the ending, and then I just opened myself to this process of sailing into this world. How I solved the problem to make the story convincing enough, it was the key. The solution was the language. Because the language is always the key, at least for me. I believe what literature is about is language, is the power and the possibilities of poetry. Because poetry is not just verses, rhymes, and poetry is the music and also the force of language. the ability to express meanings which go beyond the boundaries of conventional language. But it all started with this short story. So it took me like almost 10 years until I got the courage to start writing the novel and see if it is possible to make a novel out of it. In the beginning, it was this short story tells about the counter. Again, it's a counterfactual or alternative history, which tells about Christopher Columbus, who does not arrive in America or in the Caribbean islands, because he arrived in Cuba in the Caribbean. But what he truly wanted to do was that he wanted to sail westwards in order to reach India, because he knew already people knew that the world is has a round shape. But the big question is it possible to go to the west and arrive at east? And people wanted to reach Asia and India in some other way. So in this short story, Columbus didn't arrive in America, but he arrived in India. And he met some fakirs, and lots of other things happened to him. So at the end of this story, the people who live in the New World, they make this expansion. They conquer Europe. So I turned everything upside down. You see, it was not Columbus and the Europeans who go, the conquistadors, or they go to America and they conquer the Aztecs and the Indians there, the American Indians, which were called, of course, Indians because people somehow believe that this should be India, and this was the West Indies. So the Native Americans arrive in Europe, and this is what happens. So these creatures came and started planting. The streets of Madrid and Rome disappeared amidst banana plantations, tomatoes, blue bunches of grappiza, and melon fields. Notre Dame was buried in thick-set greenery, ivy and white poppies flowering amongst the shrubbery, poppies resembling the sun. Prickle bushes and thorns crept out all over, and scarlet herbs stained the earth. Cities turned to forests, echoing with owls' cries. Crows flitted, and anteaters scuttled to and fro broodingly through the windswept leaves. And the parrots shrieked away, shitting on everything in sight. They started drying tobacco in the Cologne Cathedral. Then they rolled the leaves, lit them, and inhaled the smoke, which put them into a deep stupor, making them roll their eyes and drop heavily to the ground. They would sometimes start bonfires with weeds and herbs amidst the plazas where there were any left, and all the people would suddenly go berserk, running wild and raving outrageously for days on end. This happened in Avignon, Florence, and Constantinople, where they say it is still going on. They planted chili peppers at the University of Paris and turned the place into a greenhouse. Altogether, the universities have proved excellent pepper fields. Amsterdam, on the other hand, vanished, swallowed up by thriving melons and sunflowers. Barbarization and pluralization encroached upon Europe. In short, the continent was greened up. That was what the chronicles and historical records would say in future if they were to exist. But they will not, because the barbarians, these swarthy Indians, hate the word. They do not use the word to communicate. They howl like wolves and jackals, bark, bellow, snort, and blow like wind. That is how they talk. They speak the language of nature, earth, and air, and are free of words. They have no religion either. They have no gods, but profess a vague yet rather fierce cult towards nature. They bow down before the giraffe and worship dreams. Witless pagans, patsies, morons. They have greened everything, turned the world into a jungle. And so this goes on, like telling the story of how they transformed, how they changed Europe in this way. So history, and how literacy and books and records of the events vanished. And then I will read you maybe the shortest short story I ever wrote, which is some object, if this is short story at all. But it's a story consisting of only one sentence. And it sounds like this. It's called One. Slow vapors of coffee overflow the windows, perfusing the terraces where white melons are gently swaying and sink into the town. Fast trains, frozen movements like marionette paintings. In heat, of course, the heat, the rain, eyes like violets in a black and white film, silken screams, cigarette smoke in the keyholes, Hitchcock, lost phone numbers, a forgotten shoe with a heel at the train station, when the night lowers down like a fog, like fire, a wave, skillful drowning man in the ease of the dark, sprouted clusters of forbidden grass, with smashed like headlight brains, lost and free and fragile, the ghosts, the cats, everything is everywhere, the city towers, irregular chessboards, half moon in the lips, dreams of glass and thrown away madness between tossed books, perfumes, cocoa, whispered kisses, glances, separations, gentle death, alcohol, bed sheets already red, in which the small hours is warmly rubbed, the sleep of the teapot, while you and me naked are rolling a reefer, and you squander hair and minutes and shuffle the cards of time, stirring the milk without caring, without rooting, weightlessly leaves, a dark herb, poison, a drizzle in the Borisova garden, a nocturnal butterfly over the umbrellas, the worms, the houses where the sleeping and the heretics are hiding, the fire starters, the sleepless ones. How empty are the parks at this time, and how I want you to take my hand in the dark and tell me again that the night is just one sentence. Yeah, so this is the short story. Thank you. And well, I'm open to any.
Times are changing. We started the first session a little bit late, but now we're starting 1 minute early, obviously. Anyhow, my name is Andrej Blatnik. I'm a writer from Slovenia, and we are shifting who starts, and who started that way. Did we say a little bit about ourselves and about our countries? If we did, in Italy it's maybe not needed. In Slovenia, I usually start by saying that we are a very small nation of 2 million people only speaking the language called Slovenian, which is a Slavic language, and then I usually make the compare this to Goa, which has 2 million inhabitants, so that you get the idea of the size of the country and population. So I do write in Slovenian, but my work is luckily mostly translated into English and some other languages. So if there will be any need to read, I will read in English, Lara will read in Italian. I said if there's going to be any need to read, because the way we are doing it is that we are, after the presentation, asking you, do you have any questions we could answer? If not, then maybe you read something, please maybe raise some questions, and then we go on from there. I'm mostly a short story writer. I published also some novels, and the last book I published was a book that traces the still existing second-hand bookstores in India and Southeast Asia where English books are sold. This is a species that's dying out because not so many people are traveling anymore with books in hand. They have it on their tablets. So I wrote this book to somehow keep this tradition, if not alive, then at least in memory. This also explains what brought us together, in my opinion, and we verified this with the organizers. We both have connections with India. I've been here quite a few times, and Clara was here even more times, and especially spent more time in India. I keep going in and out, this time 6 days only, but she stayed here for 2 years, and she'll talk about that now.
Okay. So, I'm Clara. I'm from Italy, and I'm a writer and a translator as well. And as I was telling you, I spent many years in India, sometimes long periods, sometimes shorter periods, but my shortest period was 6 months. So I had a kind of a part-time life in India, and I'm really fond of your country. I found it a beautiful place, but it's the people uh, who make a country, I think, interesting, and the humanity of people. I can tell you thousands of stories uh, where the people helped me a lot, for without wanting anything back. And every time I was in trouble, or if I also this slightest problem, also connected to language sometimes, especially if I was traveling outside big cities. I remember one night I was in Kerala, somewhere in Kerala, and I couldn't find my way back home. And I stopped a man on the street, and he was just trying. We couldn't understand each other because I did English and Malayalam, but once he understood where I had to go, he with gesture, he just told me, okay, follow me, and I arrived home safely. And another time I remember I was traveling by motorbike, I was with a friend, and then the motorbike stopped in the middle of nothing, I was again in Kerala, and then this friend told me, I'll go and find some petrol to put in the bike. And I was there alone on the road, and I remember there was only a house, and first one lady came out of the door, and then her husband, and then the kids, and then they came to me, and again, no language, there was a huge language barrier, but they just invited me to sit in their veranda for a while because I had to wait. And they say, sit. And many times I could tell you endless stories about this. And then I also translated some Indian authors into Italian, from English into Italian. And again, that was a process of knowing India closely, because the first translation were full of tricks, as I've told you when we met. No, I couldn't understand the word sambar. Today we had an excellent, we had an excellent dosa. We had an excellent dosa on the street with sambar, and at that time I couldn't know what was sambar. I was translating my first Indian novel, and I thought I looked up on the dictionary, and I found that sambar is a deer, an animal. So I was wondering, are these people having breakfast with a deer? And I was trying to understand it, because I understood that it was kind of soup, or it's not soup anymore, something, maybe it's cooked. So I was inventing things to find to find a logic way out of this. And so India is part of me. And, it's something which is part of my writing, of my thinking also, because I think it changed my perception. I was trying to, at the beginning I was fighting against many things I couldn't accept, then I understand that simply things are different, and I was adjusting to my old Clara was adjusting to the new society, I think, to the new landscape, and that's all. I would like to read, because there are some Italian students, so if you don't mind, I'll just read.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I read a poem. Yeah, I read a poem in Italian. It's called Le voci dei padri, per Sampurna Chatterjee. Sampurna Chatterjee is a Kolkata poet, a very good friend of mine. And this poem is dedicated to my father and her father as well. Qui i tramonti sono macellerie bodiniane. Quando prendi la strada per la stazione e incontri la gloria, oddio, sotto forma di albero che ti blocca il respiro, magnificente, si dice. E poi sei tu a bloccare il traffico, il flusso elettrico, fosforico, formula bruta di un pomeriggio a Ciammai, con tuo padre che ti interrompe nella cornetta. O era un varano imbambolato sul ciglio di una strada. Quando torni? e nella tua borsa a tracolla, comprata senza la burla della contrattazione nella Chinatown di Bangkok, tra sediolini di plastica, zuppe con le palle di pesce e le lanterne rosse. Solo 100 baht, madame. Prende voce il padre di Sampurna, dicembre incarnato a Thane, periferia d'India. Figliola, non avere fede in Dio, che non esiste. Riponi la tua fede nell'umanità. Ti ha ingentilito quest'altro padre, papà di fiabe russe, comunismo e personaggi che ora si animano nella tua borsa odorosa di mercati thailandesi. Borsa pancia che contiene Advaita, la tartaruga di Calcutta, una neonata di 250 anni. Ha un cuore infangato doppio, il generale britannico delle tartarughe in esilio. Pozzanghere i suoi silenzi e le sue eroine sono tutte sbiadite, coi capelli tinti da rockstar nelle improbabilità future. Ma a imporporarsi è stato lui, il ragazzino ardente col cuore di lanterna, le vene blu, cavità di rosso cinabro e le valvole fuori posto. Accende le tue notti a sud-est, quel cucciolo di steppa fatto di carta e poesia. I was going to the train station to buy a ticket to go to a nearby place, and then I got this call from my father, who usually never asked me when I was coming back. He knew that I love to travel, and maybe being a translator, when I was traveling, I was also working. So I was working from maybe Bangkok or Bombay or whenever I was doing my translation. And that day my father was just asking me, Clara, when are you coming back to Italy? And for me it was a funny question. Then later discovered that that day my father knew that he had cancer and he was advanced stage, unfortunately. So he wanted to see me to know where I was coming back. And in the same time, more or less it was the same period, or maybe slightly before, I went to see Sampurna's father in Thane. He was also a poet and a translator from Bangla. And I remember that we had an interesting conversation about believing or not believing in God. And then he told me, don't think of God, because there isn't a God. Put your trust into humanity. And that's also my point.
Well, actually, your story about a vehicle on a dark, deserted road inspired my choice of the next story, which is probably the longest story in my book, although it has only 2 pages and few lines, but the pages are very little, as you can see, so I hope you'll get through it. The whole book is consisting of 50 very, very short stories. I'm afraid that this story won't bring any optimism, as I got you used already.
Yeah.
Now you would need it after this sad story about your father, but
Yeah.
I'm afraid this story won't do anything. So I hope you will bring the optimism in your comments and your questions later. We are not reading after this. Cracks. Many stories have happened. This is one of them. You have a wife, you have some kids, you have a job, you have a car, you have a house in the suburbs. It looks like you'll die happy. Your children will cry at your funeral, and your neighbors will be sorry you're gone. Then one night, as you're driving home, and the light is vanishing, you're going no faster than usual, there's a thump. You hit something. You haven't seen anything. There was just this thud against your car. You stop, you get out to see what's happened. There is a child lying under your car, 7, 8 years old. You've got one just like him waiting for you at home. He could have been yours. He doesn't move. A pool of blood is forming under his head. You cry out, bend down, feel for his pulse. Find nothing. You look around. There's no one there. The street is deserted. You drive along this street every day without knowing anyone. A house in development, gray and disheveled. There's no one watching. All the lights are out. What now? What do you do when something like this happens to you? You know, if the child were to moan a little, it would all be simple. You'd load him into your car and rush him to the hospital, or call for an ambulance. But you can see there's nothing to save. When you go down a little, you see the street lights haven't even come on yet. You see there are no cars on the street. You turn and look around to see if anyone's coming, if anyone's lurking behind the dumpster watching. But there's no one anywhere. You'd like to call someone, but whom? Besides, your phone battery has suddenly run out and you realize that nobody would answer, even if it did still work. You look at the child again. He seems to have been lying there for hours. His face has grown colorless, the blood under his head has dried. You look around again, and the buildings along the street seem to be crumbling, the asphalt cracking, huge fissures appearing in the night sky, through which the void will begin to seep in any moment. You're still holding your car keys, you look at them, you look at your car, and you know it will never move again. You drop the keys, they fall slowly into the dark beneath you, and you're not even surprised when you don't hear the metal strike the asphalt. There's no sound left anywhere. No dogs barking, no television buzzing, no phones ringing. Again, you bend over the child. He's getting tinier and tinier and more dried out. You look at your hands and wait for the cracks to appear on them too. You think, I had a wife, I had kids. It seemed I would die happy. Now things will happen differently. Many things, many stories don't have happy endings. This is one of them. Thank you. Sorry to ruin your